When we think of the best shooters in NBA history, we picture that silky smooth release, the perfect arc, and the effortless swish as the ball glides through the net. But not every NBA player has a textbook shooting form. In fact, some have forms that defy logic, physics, and basic basketball principles. Today we're diving into the bizarre, the awkward, and the downright ugly. These are the worst shooting forms in NBA history. Before we dive in, remember, this is all in good fun. These players made it to the NBA, which means they're better at basketball than 99.9% of us could ever dream of being. But that doesn't mean we can't have a little fun with their unique, unconventional, or just plain bad shooting forms. First up, we have The Matrix, Shawn Marion. Now, Marion was an incredible player, 4-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA, and an NBA champion. But his shooting form? It's something else. Imagine a slingshot, but instead of a rubber band, it's Marion's hands, and instead of launching a stone, it's basketball. That's right, Marion shot the ball from in front of his face with a quick flick that looked like it could defy the laws of physics. Marion's shot was anything but traditional. His release was lightning quick, but it didn't have the smooth, natural flow you see from most shooters. Instead, it was more a chest pass that somehow found its way to the hoop. Yet, despite this unconventional form, Marion was surprisingly effective, shooting over 33% from 3 during his career. It goes to show that sometimes it's not how you get it done, but that you get it done. If you're teaching a young player how to shoot, Marion's form probably isn't what you'd use as an example. But for Shawn Marion, it worked, and that's what matters most. Next up, we have Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, or MKG as he's often called. MKG was known for his defense, hustle, and athleticism, but when it came to shooting, well, let's just say it wasn't pretty. Kidd-Gilchrist's shot was one of the most unorthodox in recent memory. His elbow flared out, his guide hand pushed the ball in a sideways motion, and the ball often spun awkwardly off his fingertips. Imagine trying to shoot a basketball while simultaneously giving a thumbs up to someone off in the distance. That's the kind of what MKG's shot looked like. The ball would start on the side of his body and then swing around to the other before being launched toward the basket. It was almost as if his entire body was twisting in the process, making it one of the strangest forms the NBA has ever seen. Despite multiple attempts to fix his shooting form, MKG never developed into a reliable shooter, and his career 28% 3-point shooting percentage reflects that. But hey, if defense won championships on its own, MKG would have been an MVP. Joakim Noah was a 2-time All-Star Defensive Player of the Year, and the heart and soul of the Chicago Bulls during his prime. But shooting? That wasn't exactly his strong suit. Noah's shooting form was a combination of a chest pass and a tornado, with a side spin that looked more like a failed attempt at a trick shot than a legitimate shooting form. Noah would bring the ball to his chest, spin it sideways with both hands, and then push it toward the basket with a motion that can only be described as, unique. The ball often spun sideways in the air, making it an adventure every time he took a shot outside of 5 feet. But here's the thing, Noah didn't shoot a lot, and when he did it was usually because he had no other choice. His career 49% free throw shooting percentage is a testament to just how awkward his form was. Yet despite all that, Noah found ways to contribute in so many other areas that his shooting form became part of his charm. Kevin Martin was an elite scorer in his prime, averaging over 20 points per game multiple times in his career. But when you watch him shoot, it's hard to believe he was that effective. Martin's shot was more of a push than a typical shooting motion. He'd bring the ball up from his waist, lean forward, and then flick it toward the basket in one quick motion. Martin's form was a low, fast flick that seemed to defy the principles of shooting mechanics. It was almost as if he was trying to throw the ball through the hoop rather than shoot it. Despite this, Martin was a career 38% 3-pointer shooter and one of the most efficient scorers of his time. Martin's form might not be what coaches dream of, but it worked for him. He was able to get his shot off quickly and effectively, which is ultimately what matters most. Sometimes, the ends justify the means. Bill Cartwright was a key member of the Chicago Bulls during their first three-peat in the early 1990s. But his shooting form was anything but key to their success. Cartwright's shot looked like he was trying to launch a medieval catapult rather than shoot a basketball. He'd bring the ball way behind his head, almost like a slingshot, and then release it with a jerky, awkward motion. Cartwright's form was one of the most bizarre in NBA history, especially at the free throw line. His exaggerated motion made it look like he was going to throw the ball over the backboard rather than into the hoop. And yet, despite this, Cartwright was a solid free throw shooter for a big man, making over 70% of his attempts in his career. Cartwright's form is a reminder that sometimes what works for one person might not work for another. His shot was unconventional, to say the least, but it got the job done when it mattered. Chuck Hayes was known for his defense, rebounding, and toughness, but when it came to free throws, well, things got a little weird. Hayes had one of the most unusual free throw routines in NBA history, complete with a hitch in his shot that made it look like he was trying to stop himself from shooting mid-motion. Hayes would start his free throw motion like any other player, but just as he was about to release the ball, he'd pause for a split second, almost as if his body was saying, "Wait, are we really doing this?" The hitch threw off the rhythm of his shot and made it one of the most awkward forms in the league. Hayes' free throw percentage hovered around 60% of his career, and it's safe to say that the hitch didn't help his cause. But give the man credit. He never shied away from stepping to the line, even if it wasn't the prettiest thing to watch. Andris Biedrins is another big man who made a name for himself for all the wrong reasons at the free throw line. Biedrins' shooting form was so shaky that it seemed like he was battling a mental block every time he stepped up to take a free throw. His form was a mess of indecision, awkward motion, and lack of confidence, resulting in one of the worst free throw percentages in NBA history. Biedrins' shot looked like he was trying to shoot with his elbows glued to his sides, and the ball often wobbled out of his hands as if it was unsure of where it was supposed to go. His career free throw percentage? An abysmal 50.5%, and that includes some seasons where he shot under 20%. Eventually, Biedrins became so hesitant at the line that he would often avoid shooting altogether, opting to pass out of free throw situations when possible. It's a reminder that shooting is as much mental as it is physical. Marcus Camby was one of the most defensive players of his era, known for his shot blocking and rebounding. But when it came to shooting free throws, Camby had a style that made fans scratch their heads. Camby's free throw form often included a noticeable lean backward, almost like he was fading away from the free throw line. It's one thing to shoot a fadeaway in the middle of a game, but at the free throw line, it's a bit unconventional. Camby's form was characterized by a backward lean that threw off his balance and made it difficult for him to be consistent. Despite this, he managed a career free throw percentage of just under 70%, which is respectable given his form. While Camby's fadeaway free throw might not have been textbook, it worked well enough for him to avoid being a liability at the line. But it's still one of the strangest forms we've ever seen. The Gunna Diop was known for his defense and shot blocking, but when it came to shooting, things got a bit rough. Diop's shooting form was awkward, stiff, and lacked fluidity, making it a struggle for him to score outside of dunks and layups. Diop's free throw form was particularly tough to watch. His motion was robotic, and the ball often seemed to get stuck in his hands, resulting in a push rather than a smooth release. His career free throw percentage? A dismal 51%, and it's safe to say that his form didn't help. Diop's shooting struggles are a reminder that even at the highest level, not every player is a natural scorer. But what Diop lacked in shooting, he made up for with his defensive presence and ability to protect the rim. Anthony Mason was a physical, tough-as-nails forward who played a key role on some very good New York Knicks teams in the 1990s. But his shooting form was unique. Mason had a two-hand push shot that looked more like he was playing a game of hot potato than trying to score a basket. Mason would bring the ball up with both hands, push it forward, and release it with a motion that was more of a chest pass than a traditional shot. This form made it difficult for him to shoot with consistency, especially from long range, but Mason made it work, using his strength and determination to muscle the ball into the basket.
Bulls fan and Hornets as well. Mason 1 of 2 from the line.
While Mason's shot wasn't pretty, it was effective enough for him to carve out a successful NBA career. He wasn't a great shooter, but he didn't need to be. His game was built on defense, rebounding, and toughness. At the end of the day, the NBA is full of players with all kinds of shooting forms. Some are beautiful, and some not so much. But whether it's a slingshot, a tornado, or a two-handed push, what really matters is that these players made it to the NBA and found ways to contribute despite their unconventional styles. So the next time you're working on your jump shot, just remember, even the pros have struggled with their form. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more basketball content. And as always, keep shooting your shot, unless it looks like these. In which case, keep practicing.